You want to be really quick? Let's get at her.
Yeah, gotta find your restroom.
Our next speaker is Morrison. He's a local organic beef producer. And he's the CEO, owner of Rocky Mountain Organic Beef.
Thank you. And I'm just going to start by saying, because they asked me to talk about risk management, and I'm like, wow, okay. For what I did, there was so much risk involved in managing it. It was like, don't even think about it, okay? So that's what we've done with Rocky Mountain Organic Meats. It's an online website, it's a grocery store online, it sells nothing but organics. Education is the key to all of it. You know, the consumer, educating the consumer about food and where it comes from and how it gets to his plate, and then explain to him the difference between what he's eating and what organics is trying to provide, or what organics does provide. The history of it, the NOP, which is a national organic program, was developed. It actually got executed in 2001. Took 22 years of committee meetings with USDA, and this group of 22 people that I actually got to meet most of them because I used to chair the Wyoming Business Council with the Governor Friedenthal, and I had the opportunity to meet the people that built the NOP, actually ask them questions, talk to them about why, how come, what for. And when they used the words that got to me were sustainability. I come from 3 generations, probably 4 generations. I just don't know too much about the history of Missouri, other than my great-grandfather was a farmer in Missouri, and he moved to Wyoming back in the 20s. And so my grandfather was here, my mother was here. My father's side of the family were all in oil, my mother's side of the family were all farmers. But I remember farming with my grandfather back when it was organic. I mean, he didn't have inputs, he didn't have throughputs. And I remember him talking about where agriculture was going from where he had been. I sat with him and watched him watch the man stand on the moon. And for him, it was like, he was plowing with horses in Missouri, and now we got a man on the moon. And for me to hear that from him was like, wow, I guess that would be like 2 different, hard to believe, hard to imagine, hard to understand. But that's how fast we've moved. And that's how, because we've moved that fast, we forgot some of the building blocks and some of the caretaking that needs to be done in our soils. The Bighorn Basin history. Is there anybody here that's not familiar with the Bighorn Basin and how it got developed? It's mostly through the federal government. It's all bureau projects. Buffalo Bill Cody came here, who was nothing more than a real estate developer after he got into the show business thing. And one of the last points of entry into Yellowstone Park was the East Gate. So he built his hometown of Cody there. And he also understood that water had the potential to generate electricity, which electricity was a whole new thing. And if you start studying that whole dealing with power and water, and then taking the state of Wyoming, which didn't become a state until 1890, developed water rights. It's water rights which are used throughout the world, water law, and developed this whole area of 97,000 acres of irrigated land. So it's a niche inside a niche, really. You Google the Bighorn Basin, it's about the size of the head of a pin. On the map, when you look at the earth and you start bringing it down, it's a very small place. Food and freedom. To me, the word food should have been mentioned in the Constitution, because I think every human being has a right to raise their own if they want to. But we've got a whole lot of government intrusion into that whole idea of being able to raise food. The organic idea is to get soils back to what they are to make them sustainable. And really to do that, we need to bring the farm animal back to the farm. That's part of the organic idea. Where to market and how to do it, I mean, this is all stuff that we've done as Rocky Mountain Organic Meats. We live on the internet. This is where we live. This is our website. These are products that we sell. This is all raised on, I think we got 7 or 8 different organic producers that we buy cattle from. And we will actually run, depending on, because in the organic meat business, there are still cow-calf producers, so they want to sell feeder cattle as organic. So we run them on my land, irrigated pastures, if they're not ready. We actually work with a company out of Minnesota that does the organic vegetables and fruits and juices. We actually grow these on the farm. We've got 30 different varieties. We've got 17,000 pounds that we're marketing on the internet. We're in the process of building a whole other website for the beans. We do a pet treat. This is how we do it. Anybody doesn't know what that is? Anybody know what that is? Know what that is? Okay, that's how we market, that's how we touch our customers. We have 1,000 email addresses of people that have bought from us and continue to buy from us. We also use constant contact. So we build those things. I mean, organics is very different than conventional agriculture. And really, when I say different, it's only different if you haven't lived in that time zone. And that time zone is my grandfather's time zone. That's the only thing that's the difference between this and organic, is the fact that you cannot use any chemical inputs.
Even vaccinations?
No vaccinations are allowed, but it depends. Some are genetically modified. They don't want that. If they're a genetically modified vaccine, you can't use it.
Oh, but some vaccines are allowed.
Yes,
Okay.
most vaccines are allowed. There's just some new ones out there that have been genetically modified to
I
meet
got you.
whatever
Yeah.
new things coming out.
What about antibiotics?
No, you can use them. You just can't sell the
You
animals.
gotta take them
organic.
out in all natural.
Right.
Okay,
Yep, you gotta take them conventional.
right.
I don't like to use the word natural.
Well,
Natural.
I mean, all natural is what they use as cell bars. I don't even know what it means, you know.
Well,
I
they
don't
don't
think half
either.
people do either. I don't either. Yeah,
So are you saying you can't use, I mean, to make the distinction between antibiotics that people just give all the time for growth or antibiotics because the animal got sick?
If the animal's sick, you gotta treat the animal.
But it still takes it out of that
Takes
shape?
Still
it out.
takes it out of the organics.
Okay, that's it. That makes sense.
Right. So, you know, as we all know, at least I think everybody knows, there's 7.2 billion people on the planet. 1967, 3.4. So in 40 years, we've doubled it.
And it's accelerating even more.
It's logarithmic.
Yep.
It's
Everybody
probably
here knows what that
7.5
means,
since you started that sentence.
right? Sustainability is the key. I mean, this was the thing I kept listening to the NLP people that were talking about NLP because they were using their own marketing to talk to me as a producer. And I was saying, hey, you know, you can't tell me that I've used these chemicals. I've been in these chemicals. I've been a farmer. I know what this stuff does. I know how long it hangs around. It's not there. And they, well, yeah. I mean, I'm nailing them to the wall. And then after this conference, I meet them outside. I don't meet them, they meet me. And they say, hey, you're asking some really good questions, but we want you to understand, and I think there's something here that you need to hear. And I said, yeah, because what I'm hearing hasn't got me convinced yet. And they both said, this is what it's really about. And I said, well, how come you can't come out and say it? Because people are afraid. And if we tell them the truth, they're not ready to hear it. And that was a fact.
The people like us, the people, or do you mean the industrial
it's-
farming, industrial?
Industrial farming,
Yeah.
and because they do know that that's what's occurring, they know what the problems are. They don't want to,
Monoculture and all?
they don't want to interject into that thing because they don't know what direction to go. They don't, and this is the whole reason behind this whole idea of organics, is it's an opportunity for people that know, people that understand it, and people that want to go a different way, to own it. Okay? You own it.
Both the consumers and the producers.
You own it. There's nobody in the middle of this deal. I'm touching consumers without any middlemen. And it's the one thing that's going to stop what's happening with the U.S. government coming into the food business. Because when they see organics, they go, okay, yeah, you're right, you're all by yourself. Yeah, damn right I am. So, you know, yeah, I obey USDA rules when it comes to processing. You know, when I send my cattle to get processed, because everything I sell goes across the state lines. So it has to be done through a USDA processing plant.
Where do you do that?
I do it in Columbus, Montana. But it's certified organic also. So he signed up to do my cattle first before he runs anything else.
Right.
He also cleans all of his equipment with citric acid. He doesn't use bleaches, he doesn't use chlorine, he doesn't use, and that's all okay with USDA. Our HACCP plant is our meat hangs for 14 days. 6 days, all the bacteria is gone. All the bad bacteria is gone. In the conventional world, meat is processed, it's on the shore shelf in 48 hours. And in America, we consume 42,000 a day.
You only hang 14 days.
We hang 14 days.
How does the bacteria go away in 6 days?
Dry cooler?
Oh, okay. So you talked about the surface.
Yes. Yeah, there's still that bacteria going on the inside, which we like because
It's
it
soft.
makes it softer, and it also makes it taste better. It gives it a real taste. I got to the point where I can't hardly eat restaurant meat anymore just because it doesn't have
I can milk
no...
that.
Exactly.
And you don't hang it longer just because of the shrinkage?
No, 14 days, if you look at the science of dry aging, you don't gain much after 14 days. It falls
Tenderness and
off.
stuff.
So 14 days is the optimum time frame. And you can actually age and trial back, but what you end up with is something that when the consumer gets it and they're not used to it and they pop that bag, it goes, whoa.
A little green, a little smelly, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I can't eat this. So you don't really want to do that.
So when it's cut and wrapped, do you bring it back here to state inspected freezers? Or where do you
I
ship
sell it off
right
the
from
farm.
there?
So he freezes it at your butcher,
Yep.
and you
It's
get it back
packaged
frozen and
in
vacuum
Roundup.
packed? Yep, and then you ship it, you do your own fulfillment around it.
Yep.
It ships from there or ships from your ranch?
From my ranch.
State inspected freezers, or what do you need to have?
They're not open bags.
So it doesn't matter.
Well, I'm inspected. I have people come out and look at my stuff and go, well, you gotta have your boxes on the shelf. Okay, fine, I'll have my boxes on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's not.
But it's still USDA? You have USDA inspections, USDA over your ranch?
No.
No, none. These are
No.
just
If
business.
it leaves the plant with a USDA sticker on it,
Yeah,
that's the end of USDA.
interesting.
But I could sell it anywhere in the United States and around the world.
Rob, what's your ground and stuff certified? How, do they check?
Yeah, I have an inspector that comes every year.
Once a year, is that
Yeah,
right?
once a year is your inspection. They like to come in the spring. And what they do is, because there's, I think, 7 of us that are certified through the state of Montana. And so they arrange for one inspector. She shows up and she sees everybody in a 2-day span. And it makes the cost a lot more efficient.
Sure.
Is your ranch in Montana?
No.
It's in Cody, isn't there somewhere, right?
It's
Yeah.
up on
How?
the mountain.
How?
And I call it a franch.
Ranch.
And really, you're better off calling it a farm.
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint. Ranch is thought of as more negative. If you say farm.
Like CAFO or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Well, ranch has that, people think of ranch as the cattle bearing, farm is more acceptable.
Nurturing.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been watching documentaries on a lot of this stuff, sure.
Yeah, which ones have you
I
watched?
don't even know the names of some of them, but one named Earth would be good for everybody to watch. Or
Earth?
dirt.
Dirt. Dirt's a good one.
Good exposure to.
Farmageddon's another one.
Farmageddon's in it.
I've met Mrs. Canty.
Oh.
We've become great friends. This is my analysis of the rock and the hard place. Average acreage farm. Getting bigger. Average age of the farmer. Getting older. 58, I think, right now. Capital investment. Does anybody know what farmland in Iowa is selling for right now?
20 an acre.
Thank you.
20,000.
20,000 an acre. Where's that money coming from?
ConAgra?
70% of it's coming from hedge funds.
Hedge
It's Wall Street moving out of the last bubble to create another bubble.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily believe it's a bubble.
Yep.
And I always hear this from people, well, by God, America produces the food for the world. We haven't done that since 1994.
No. We're importing beef and everything.
Yep. Consolidation in the food industry. How many people have seen the picture of all the choices that you have at the grocery store?
They're all owned by one or two big.
They're all owned by 3 or 4 major companies, all made the same way, from the same corn, soybean. People are getting aware of it. People are understanding it. They're waking up more and more every day. And that's the beauty of a niche. It's the beauty of a niche because your phone rings.
You get the wind behind you.
My phone rings on average 3 times a day. And it's from all over the United States. I just have a question about your feed. Could I talk to consumer information? Customer service?
Hopefully.
You got him.
Hold on one second.
I'm here.
No, it's amazing to me the disconnect people have. I mean, they are, and that's probably the hardest thing for me is spending the time with them, which you have to do. And in the middle of what I'm doing, it can be very, could I call you back in 20 minutes? Because I'm chasing a cow across the prairie.
Are most of your customers on the coast?
I got east and west coast, yeah. But I sell to Nebraska.
Yeah.
As much, and Iowa. Those are 2 of my other states that I go, wow.
Big feedlot states, yeah.
Yeah. This one's the most interesting of all. The government supported industry of ag bond. Miss Dixie can talk about that. This ratio here,
Fossil fuels,
10 to 1.
that's low.
Right now we're spending 10 calories to drink 1. Transportation, we move stuff from all over the country and all over the world, and it's all changing. And as farmers, we go, well, yeah, it's changing, but it's not moving in my direction. Well, it is. We want to produce it the way the consumer wants it. It's like we always said, the guy wanted a pink Cadillac. I want a pink Cadillac. Well, we don't make a pink one. Well, the guy that makes pink Cadillacs is going to win because that's what they want. And that's what's happening right now. I've been in the organics since 97. I watched it. I got to see the whole marketing of it in Chicago at the FMI, and that's the Food Marketing Institute. The OTA, Organic Trade Association, was down in the basement of the FMI. You know, I didn't know what the FMI was. I had no idea. Whoa, Budweiser girls. Wow, chips, everything that I mean, this whole thing was a show of food, and it was amazing. Money spent was just unbelievable. And I was down in the basement with these guys with a skirt around their little table and selling oils and beads. And this was the beginning of the certified organic idea. And in 5 years, I had the meat buyer from Walmart stop at my table. Said, I want your organic beef. I said, really? I said, yeah, how many you got? 10. And he's like, how come, well, what do those people got? And that was Applegate, and then there was Dakota Meats was another one. And then they had a $300,000 tent, looked like a barn, and hay, and this whole thing going on. And I spent probably 2 weeks trying to find out who they were. I called. I went to their website, could never track. I finally got a hold of Scott, and I said, "What do you guys? You guys buying cows? What are you doing?" "Oh, it's all on our website." "Oh, okay." So didn't get no answers, but I did call the city where they were building their quote organic feedlot, and to me, the organic feedlot idea was not going to flush. I mean, I just couldn't make sense or anything out of any of that. And when I went there and saw their booth, I was like, holy shit. And then I got the meat buyer going, well, how much has they got? I said, I don't think they got anything. Honestly, I don't think they've got a thing. Well, they got meat in a case. I said, yeah, but if I had spent all that money, I would definitely have meat in a case. Now, where it came from, I don't know, but that's what they were doing. And that company, I think, is traded like 3 or 4 times. And their learning is they're trading, This is the beauty of this was an opportunity for producers. And it was the hardest thing. And I remember being in Chicago in 2002 when it got, USDA, Congress had signed the thing, and it was in the fars and the deers that you could put the USDA symbol on a piece of meat. And I was there. And the guy came up to me and said, yeah, but we had to give up a bunch to get that. I said, what'd you give up? He said, well, as certifiers, now understand, certifiers are not government employees. They can be, but most of them are private companies that certify organic. As an organic producer, you don't own the seal. They do. Okay? So it's really key, and I don't like saying the word, but you need to find a group of people that you can work with. You need to sit down with them and explain to them where you're at, what you want to do, and how you want to get there. And it's really all about trust. You got to build that trust. If they think you're, man, you're just not getting, I just don't believe you, man, they can make your life hell from a producer standpoint. But if you fall in line and say, yeah, I agree, yeah, I know why you're doing that, it makes sense to me, yep, then it's no big deal. But it's not a government program, okay? It's a private program. And as a producer, once you own the seal, once you've got it, it's a 3-year wait for anybody else. It's market protection. And there's nothing to me I like better than talking to a bunch of producers that go, I ain't doing that. I'm not here to try and convince you, man.
So it's a 3-year-long process to get certified?
If you're farming conventionally,
Yeah, because
Your
you
land.
flush out your land and everything.
your land. Lucky for me, I had 160 acres that I was able to collect affidavits from the people that farmed it before and said, no, we haven't done anything to that.
Including herbicides,
Yep.
insecticides, anything?
Anything.
Roger that. When we was kids growing up on a farm, we farmed a lot like what you're talking about. And it was in the 60s that we started having terrible weed problems. And Lyle's answer to that was 4 boys with a sharp hoe. But, that's one of my biggest problems on my garden is weed control.
Mhm.
How on earth can you control these weeds other than just with a hoe?
Biomass works really well. You get bale up, whatever you can find baled up, and use it to cover your ground. so that you don't have those weeds growing in the middle between your plants. You know, then and I also, well, with the beans this year that we did, we went and bought a cultivator, 6-row cultivator, you know, the discs that you can set and cut a,
Like we used to.
exactly. You're driving 2.5 miles an hour and but you're knocking out 6 rows in 20 minutes to the top of the field. And you're doing it 6 times. And then you run and the hardest part later was we were out there with migrant workers and hoeing them too. But we only had to cut that much, and we could walk through them pretty fast. But cultivation is key when it comes to weed control. And I'd just get me a small tractor and put me up a toolbar with some knives on it, and you know, just as soon as you see that plant, cut them out.
Pasture hay, sheep and goats, is that a good way to manage weeds?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, using livestock to manage weeds is a great way to go about it. And chickens are a great pest eater. They love to go out.
Oh, they are.
Oh man, they are.
Grasshopper
Yes,
hunting.
they're amazing. But you know, and it's not fast food. You know, you're not going to raise 250 acres of it. You know, you're going to raise 15, 20. One of the things I like to mention is there's 32,000 calories in a gallon of diesel. That's enough calories. And now I understand calories is just a measurement of energy. And it doesn't matter if it's in diesel fuel or if it's in a carrot. It's calories. So 32,000 calories in a gallon of diesel. That is 15 days of food. So you're buying a gallon of diesel for $5. 15 days of food, how much is that going to cost you? Okay. So in my opinion, I think we need a calorie-based economy. Then you got parity and you got transparency. And energy is what makes this world go around now. It's not the dollar bill. I mean, you can get dollars from the Fed for 0 interest. They'll print them up for you for nothing. It's just their member banks won't lend it to you for nothing. There's what we can do with where we're doing it right now. We're selling organic spinach, carrots, onions, winter squash. We sell a French fried potato. It probably takes 2 potatoes to make that bag of potatoes. And we're selling that bag of potatoes for, well, right here it says $3.99, but we're actually getting $10 for it. It's made into a crinkled French fry. But it's probably 2 pounds of potatoes. So these are yields on organic fields per acre, pounds per acre. I just took the math real quick. 10-ounce bags, 10-ounce bags into this number of pounds per acre times what we're getting retail. Because when I built this whole thing, I wasn't going to build it around a conventional business model. I want to create something. I want to create some sustainability. I want to create a viable food source. So an acre of spinach yields 11,000 pounds. That's $70,000. You can't buy weed, marijuana. You can't grow marijuana and make that kind of money. I mean, I'm selling it. Carrots, same way, $123,000 an acre. We got to do it organic. We got to do it organically.
Paul, what would be, is it a ballpark on any one of those lines if it was not organic, like regular commercial, industrial
One
farming?
of the things I was going to do was put a conventional price in here, but I
Yeah.
just put $2 because, I went and looked on the website. The only thing I could find was most of the stores that were on the website had representations of what they had in the marketplace, but they weren't pricing.
Of course, the real part you can't put on there is actual food value of each. Compare theirs to yours, you know, theirs.
Yeah, and there's some, you know, that's a big debate about whether or not organics is more nutritious, you know, but that's what organics came out with as far as a marketing plan. It was, you know, if we talk to them about nutrition, you know, that's how you have to talk to the consumer. The consumer's more worried about nutrition and about, they don't want sustainability, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
another point, they gotta understand, you know, why is your daughter maturing at the age of 9? Because she's eating antibiotics in her milk and her eggs and her meat,
Well,
you know, growth hormones and
the-
you know, everything else.
The key to the antibiotics issue is not so much that you're consuming it, but what we're doing in the industrial ag world is we're sub-therapeutically using it.
Yes.
So what's happening is that bacteria is being able to mutate. That's how we've got the E. coli H15707. I think it's 07, it might be H7, can't remember. But anyway, and there's several others. I mean, there's one here recently that's now a female urinary infection that the antibiotics won't touch, and it's coming from chicken.
Yeah, I was amazed to find out what that even meant when I learned that word, subtherapeutic.
But that's part of
Cat you know?
That's part of the rock and the hard place. You know, I know they all know it. Everybody that's in the game knows it. But it's how do you change it? How do you put it, how do you take a system like we've created and turn it backwards on itself?
About the time gas hits $10 a gallon.
That's a possibility. But I mean, at that point, it's a lot different, you know. It's still, you've got several thousand head of livestock confined in one location because you're feeding them subsidized corn. So how do you take that system and turn it around and break it up and say, no, you're gonna move these cattle back, and you cow-calf guys need to reduce your numbers so you can start carrying these cattle on the grains you got.
How did they even come up with the idea of the word organic CAFO or feedlot, like you said? How can you do that? and
You
stay
can just
alive?
obviously tell that the people that were starting this business weren't producers.
Yeah, because they'll
They-
get sick
you
together.
know.
Well, there's standards how
They
many
were-
fish
they were-
you can have in a
They were basically people that saw a market opportunity,
Who's talking?
started to talk it up, started to make it, oh yeah, look, I can get some investors. Oh, this is what I'm gonna build, because that's kind of what it looks like they're doing over there. You know, yeah, I mean, it became very obvious to me and a lot of others that were looking at it going, wow, they really don't know what they're talking about, do they?
Well, Switchback Ranch, you know, down there by Clark, that's where I live. They have kind of like that's a big spread out open feedlots, 3 of them right there together, and they're spread out over, 200 acres. It's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah.
Not organic, not going there, but,
Ish.
But the idea of the organics is to create a system, a food system that is sustainable. And it has to bring the farm animal back.
it's all about the
So
soil.
you use the word sustainable, is that the same, is your definition of sustainable the same as the UN Agenda 21 sustainability is?
You know, I don't know what they're defining, how are they defining it?
Well, I'm not real sure, but I can tell you this, that when you look through that Agenda 21, talking about sustainable agriculture, they're gonna reduce the food supplies quite a bit if you plenty of people start that.
Well, and that's part of the other discussion is whether or not organics can do what conventional farming is doing right now. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I've actually tried to sit down and think about it, okay? And I think your scenario, what you brought out there in the hall, if you just look at Park County, what did you say, 28,000 people here? And if it was a collapse and we had to feed the 28,000 people, how many tons of beans did you?
5,200 tons
5,200 ton
for 1 pound a day.
for 1 pound a day. You know, I raised on 17 acres organically, let's see. I probably had 17 tons off 17 acres.
A ton of beans is a good yield,
Yeah, but I mean,
fertilizer or not.
I did the same thing with the calculation in California, whether or not the San Joaquin Valley could feed San Francisco based on the local food discussion. You know, and the only thing I could figure that you would raise that would have the most calories would be corn. Because that's what Richard Nixon did and Earl Butz did. You know, they said corn's the crop. Corn is the crop to raise. So, you know, we looked at, okay, we're gonna take the Sonoma Valley. This is how many calories a person needs, you know, how much calories are in corn, a bushel of corn. You know, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, San Juan Key Valley would feed San Francisco as long as it has water. And when you start asking that question, then you go,
Yeah.
okay, what's happening there? Sierra Madres, some years they don't get rain or they don't get snow. This last year they got dumped on. But years before that they had 3 years of drought.
But that kind of comes back to the old sustainability too. Got too many people living in places that really were never habitable.
Yeah, Sutherland County, we'd have to eat radishes and peas. That's
Not
about all we can
sustainable.
get.
Well, most of the experts I hear talking about things, or so-called experts, is that our population of the world probably is going to be 1/3 of what it is now in the future. That's the natural carrying capacity on a sustainable basis, where we're not using up fossil fuel capacity.
But I look at the present right now, and if we don't move in this direction, we don't start moving in this direction, and the market's, what I'm saying is the market is saying, yes, I want a relationship with someone that knows how to raise food. That's what this says. It doesn't say, I believe in organics.
Yeah.
No, this is people, these are educated people. I mean, I can take I've got a huge UPS database of people that I've shipped meat to for the last 10 years, and I could do a random sample with a 90% confidence interval and say, okay, what's my N? Okay, we're going to pull 100 random addresses out of there, and we're going to look where they live. I did that. The only thing that comes out of that thing is me, every one of my customers lives at the end of a road or at the back end of a cul-de-sac. Now, psychologically, what does that mean? It means that he's the kind of guy or kind of person when he walks into a restaurant, he wants to sit here. With the door going out and I can see who's coming in. That's the only thing I can,
And doesn't want aces and eights.
doesn't want aces and eights. But he across the economic board, they all had junk cars. Some of them had junk cars in their yards. I'm like, okay, you know. And the other guy's got 5 garages. So it's like it's all over the map. There's no. A lot of my customers are men. They make the orders. They order them themselves. I don't know if they're buying it for the family. A lot of them don't want to shop on the internet, so they get my phone number. They call me. Mostly men.
Probably his hippie girlfriends, you know, trying to keep it on the low down.
That's what one of the guys said at the OTA. He said the only reason a man buys organics is for sex. Hey,
I found out a long time ago, I have a lot less allergy issues.
that's what it takes.
Rod, earlier in the conversation, you said something about constant contact. Can you explain that a little bit?
I didn't miss. I should have made a slide of it. Constant Contact is an email-based marketing system, and it's I think right now it's costing us about $300 a year. And that's unlimited emails out to those 1,000 different email addresses. It's a HTML-driven program. You build your own newsletter. Fairly simple. I mean, it takes some time. It's not something you can just jump in and, I mean, you want it to look professional, you want it to look right. It takes time. You know, they've got some already made that you can plug and chug, and that helps you learn it. But as you learn it, you go, okay, I want to do a little, and then you start stepping it up. But it's a great tool. I use Twitter and I use Facebook to push people towards constant contact. If I can get their email address, then I can educate them. And that's the whole idea behind social marketing. I've got several different personas. I mean, this is one of the discussions that I and my partner have, is our customer a liberal or Republican. I haven't got a feel for that. I think it's, I mean, as much as we want to say food is politics, and it is, in a huge way, consumers are responding to this. The reason I pounded it out so early and had been so abused is because I want to save this place. You know, I've been everywhere, man. I have. I've been around the world. I've done a lot of things. And coming back to Wyoming in this little spot has convinced me that this is a golden opportunity. If we don't take it, and we don't run with it, and I mean run with it from the sense of a community, because it needs to be a community project. Because the PR that you will get out of it will be huge. I was on an airplane with Lynn Clarkson of Clarkson Grain from Denver on the States jet. And we had CEO of Organic Valley. We had a Texas meat guy who's organic. I don't know, were you here at the time when we brought that group in here? This is probably
I'm sure it was.
97.
He was, because you were born when he was here.
But anyway, on this jet airplane ride, I'm watching Lynn Clarkson look out the window. And you get this kind of look on his face. He'd look out the other window. Finally, the jet was coming down, and I knew, okay, Bighorn Basin. I said, Lynn, look out the window. Holy shit. Down on the other side, Lynn, look out the window. Damn. Is this what we're going to come see? I said, yeah, this is the Bighorn Basin. He looked at me and says, man, is there any way in hell you can get these people to say they won't accept any GMOs in here? Wow, Lynn, could you just ask me to beat my grandmother?
Yeah.
Because I was like, I mean, there ain't nothing I would love to have happen, is to have that conversation with people around here and say, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Because he could have brought so much into this county by just declaring that we weren't going to allow GMOs in here with the
For
surrounding.
seed too, for seed.
Huh?
For seed, you mean, anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
With the barrier around it.
Right, with the barrier around it and the fact that it could never get in here. And that we were going to, stand together as a community and say that.
Yeah.
We'd be going up against the big ones, there.
Yeah, it would have been.
Man, can't even grow seed around
But he
here.
could see the opportunity. And I knew I had it right too when I went into it. He said, yeah, this is exactly what needs to happen here, the idea of organics. I said, well, when I was a kid, Powell was called the Garden Spot of Wyoming. And it was. There was no gardens, the fair, crying out loud. 5 buildings full of food. And all raised here. I'd like to bring that back. I'd like to eat my great grandmother's corn relish again.
Move the fair back to the 3rd week in August. Again.
I agree. I'm with you.
So would you be comfortable giving any size or scope of what your business and your farm is, or your
Well,
franchise?
my farm is about 300 acres. Irrigated.
How much all is irrigated?
All irrigated. We ran, the land, when I plowed it, when I first got it, there wasn't an earthworm in it.
So it wasn't farmland, it was all,
It was
state-
sugar beets hay, or
Oh.
sugar beets barley, sugar beets barley, sugar beets barley.
So it's already
Wheat,
level.
barley, barley,
So it's already level farmland?
Yep.
Okay. And how many, cattle, your cattle business side of it, how big is that, or? do you-
Well, right now I've got about 106, probably 140 head.
And you're just stocking?
I'm just stocking. I just got organic feeder cattle from some ranches in Montana.
What size you buy them?
550, 600.
So basically weanlings?
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep them, butcher them at 12, 1,500, or
No, I start taking them at 800.
800?
Yeah.
Because it'd take you 2 or 3 years to get them up to 1250 organically.
Yeah, I wouldn't even want to push them that far.
Okay. Thanks.
I noticed that in my garden. I started out with a 30-foot strip, then I took it to 60, and then I expanded it a lot. Then the first year, my first 30-foot, like you said, there wasn't one in there, even though it hadn't been farmed, it was pasture.
Right.
But 2 years later, when that, where I put my
Compost.
compost back down and stuff, pretty soon we got earthworms.
Mm-hmm.
So, this must be better. You know, and it's amazing how quickly, I don't know where they come from, but they find you.
Yeah, they do.
And I would, you know, my theory is, and it'd have to be a theory because I don't have any proof on it, is if you have earthworms, evidently it's an index of how good your soil.
It is an index of how good your soil is. It's certainly a measurement of how much organic matter you've got in the soil, because that's the only reason an earthworm will be there, is there's something for him to chew. And,
A friend of mine has irrigated pasture, he runs his cows, kind of like yours, all over these flowers again. And he was showing me where, he said that that when you get to the right balance, you'll have as many tons of earthworms under your dirt as you will produce forage on top. Does that sound correct?
makes sense.
That's how Brazil measures it.
Is it really? And the reason that they have any, and they got data to collect it?
Yeah, that's how they measure the health of their soil, as they benchmark it with the pounds of earthworm in a certain area, you know.
So if they want more earthworms, they put more organic matter in, or?
Or sulfur's a big one that kills them, if you don't use any sulfur. A lot of commercial fertilizers won't, but I know the one guy I visited with a stock show one time, he measures it a lot by kicking over cow pies.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how it's always green right around the cow pie?
Right.
And if you kick it over, the worms come up, take the nutrients, and take it back down.
Right.
And they'll use that as a benchmark too, and kind of measure. They have benchmarks, and they'll use
Okay.
it to measure. That's why they said, the guys I talked to down there said they never drag their fields because they don't lose a lot of the worm activity.
Makes sense.
It's interesting.
Well, that was the one thing, and I don't know, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the 90-10 rule,
90-10?
90-10, it's basically based on the sun. The sun delivers 100% of our energy.
Okay.
Anything that attacks or uses that sun collects 90%. I mean, it's using 90% of it
Okay.
and giving back 10. So if a plant is grabbing the solar power, it's using 90% of it and giving back 10% of that energy in the end. So, and this is what I've had explained to me, that a cow is the same thing. It's eating the grass, taking 90% of the energy and giving back 10. So it's kind of across the board, that's the natural law.
Natural law. I wouldn't know.
Energy trophic levels in your ecology, that's,
Right, that's what he was
Yeah,
talking
that's how
about,
they-
exactly.
yeah, so all your vegetation, you've got this much energy, and as you go up and get your first producer, your first consumer, second consumer, you're losing 90% of your energy each time.
Each
you
time. Huh, I'll be
Step
there.
up from trophic level to trophic level.
Well, that's one of the keys of pasturing livestock in organic agriculture is you're going to take 7 years of pasturing to get back the energy that you need to to get, say, 2 crops of grain
Uh-huh.
back out, get the nitrogen
It's one of the big arguments for becoming vegetarians, and we can feed the world,
And that's
the proteins a lot. That's just the energy. They're not talking
Absolutely.
protein in that, but energy.
Right, and that's one of the reasons that we put the organic vegetables on our product line. Initially when we did that, because I spent a lot of time on my market and my social marketing, and I got, we're not buying from a meat company.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, here's the deal, folks. You don't buy the meat, I can't raise the tomato.
Because of manure?
Yeah, well, I got,
And
they're my
soil.
composter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soil,
Okay.
soil make
And
that.
once they started educating my community about that, my sales on organic vegetables, I'm boxing them. I'm probably selling 7 cases a week.
And it's all seasonal, right? You don't have any greenhouses or?
I don't have any greenhouses. Now this, in fact, all this stuff is coming from Minneapolis.
Okay, the
Snowpack
produce,
is a company in Minneapolis. or
you're not
in
growing the
Southern-
produce mostly,
I'm
that's
not
that
growing
beans.
any, but we can't. This is,
Uh,
for me to make this work here, I have to show market.
Yeah.
Right.
It's there, okay?
Right.
So now that you're vertically integrated with the name of the talk, how do you manage the risk of it? I mean, what's the,
Well, what are the risks?
I mean, it's just like when I started my talk and you
Yeah.
probably weren't.
Did I
sitting
miss
here.
it?
You
Yeah.
probably did.
I
What I
did.
said, if you want to talk about risk and getting in this business, you never would have done it.
yeah?
I mean, I sat down with it, Lynn, and I went, this is purely giving of me
Yeah.
doing this. Because honestly, there was no place to go, there was no market for meat. There was nobody had any meat. So it was Roundup.
Yeah.
What's the risk? Man, it was huge. I mean, I'm still paying. Yeah, but I'm seeing it for what it is.
Yeah.
And it is happening. And it's happening in a huge way. You know, the paradigm, which is so consolidated and compacted,
Mm-hmm.
won't move on it. Because when I was in Chicago, I actually had the VP of marketing from Campbell Soups
Yeah.
come to my table and say, hey, how you doing? "Ah, great, you know, gave me his card. I said, so when's Campbell's going to be organic? He said, you know, if there was some way for me to put my soup on this shelf and the organic soup there, and the organic says, this is poison, this isn't. When am I ever going to be able to sell a can of my
That's
conventional soup?
Right. Yeah.
So that told me, man, I'm on the right track. Because if this guy is saying, I can't sell my soup because yours says mine has poison in it, man, I'm sitting in the catbird seat.
Yeah.
I've got 4 aces and he ain't got shit.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Huh?
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Right, exactly. And at the same time, it's then, okay, my problem is educating. Because what I was trying to say earlier, what we gave up in the NOP was none of those certifiers, none of those inspectors could go out and publicly communicate what organics is. They couldn't go out and look for clients. They couldn't go out and talk to producers and say, hey, look what we just did.
But now they can or not?
No,
Because
cannot.
there's no good standard or what?
No, because corporate food said, okay, fine, you want this bill, you want the NOP, fine, here's the deal. All you people in here, you cannot go out and publicly talk about what organics is. You cannot go out and say, Mr. Producer, we got a deal for you. If you grow your stuff this way, we can guarantee you're going to have a market.
Just by market force.
They're the only people that know what organics is. The only people that could educate the producer about what organics was the certifier and the inspector. Those two people got their hands tied.
And they did that because of just market effects, the bullion effect, or illegal.
Corporate food said, well, fine, if you want my congressman to sign that,
Yeah.
okay, he will.
Yeah.
But here's what he's going to get, here's what he's going to take away from it.
Politics, yeah.
That-
It's like the DEQ, when you come up with the method of cleaning, they love it, but they can't go tell the bigger companies about it. Trade secrets, everything else is
Yeah.
politics.
Yep,
Well,
and
you-
that's what we had to give up to get it
Yeah.
through.
Speaking of politics, you were saying you didn't know which the demographics of your buyers broke down. Just in our very limited experience, people ask us what we do. We tell them, well, once we get the cows, they're not born to us, but once they come to us, they're on a pasture, period. Nothing else. Necessary vaccination, that's it. Green grass, bring them in and throw a little bit of corn at them for a month and then take them to slaughter. And where we live is extremely conservative. And we have people all the time, when are you going to slaughter something? When can I get a quarter? When can I? Because they just understand it's a cleaner product.
And a lot of them buying it from us grow their own beef.
Mhm.
But they don't, they know our beef is cleaner because of the way we're doing it.
That's what they say.
I get my irrigating water out of
Trying to find a niche.
the global irrigation district. Yours comes out, of the reservoir, mine comes out of the river.
Mhm.
Is there anything that's addressed by organic certification that says, uh-oh, because your water comes out of the Buffalo Bill Reservoir, it's cleaner than my water that comes out of the
Might have wastewater dumping in there, you mean?
Well, there's some, like I said before, it's about your certifier. What you want to do is bring them in. You want to say, okay, I want, tell them what you got. Tell them everything you could possibly think of. This is what I got. This is what I got. Is this a problem? Is this a problem? Is this a problem? Is this a problem? And if you hear, well, that might be. Well, that could be. Well, that, And if you hear from another guy, no, that's not a problem. We'll work with it. It's not an issue.
Then work with there.
Right. They'll work with it. I mean, the main, probably the hardest thing for them to work with is the fact that if you were using wastewater from a farm directly above you, it was farming conventional. Right. Then they would be like, okay, we gotta figure out how, can't you do that? Is there any way you can work around that? Is there any way you cannot use that wastewater?
I'm just telling you that I would.
Yeah, well, I'm just not gonna use it. Oh, okay, well, that's all that problem. But I've never had them say, river water? Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to start somewhere, and that's what, the smart certifiers understand it's really about sustainability. It's really about you understanding you want to treat your soils with respect, and
Right.
you want to, that's where your values come from. And that's what they want to see from you is, hey, I'm putting this organic matter back in here. I've pastured this land for 7 years, and now I'm going to raise.
It's a lifestyle, not a market.
Thank you.
What about once you doctor one of your calves and mark them, and they're out of the program, but can you still pasture them with the others, with the natural?
Don't usually like to.
Because you're getting the manure back in there, and
It's just, they just don't want to have the confusion,
Okay.
and you really don't want it either. I mean, typically what I would do when I did that, I just took them to market.
If you're buying good calves, anyway, 550 pounds,
I've only had one pass on me, and I tried, I shot her with antibiotics, I put magnets in her, and had the vet, and he said, man, I think she's got pneumonia. It's like, and it would have cost me $150 to haul her to World, I just did the humane thing, better to the coyotes.
so you didn't start out with conventional type cattle raising here and then decide to go organic and make the conversion?
Well, there was no such thing as organic cattle. When they came up with the organic standard said you can go buy conventional cattle.
You're already a producer at that point?
No,
Oh,
I went and bought conventional cows.
okay.
The rules said they had to be on organic feed 3 months by the third trimester.
Okay.
So 3 months prior to the calf born, the mother had to be on organic feed. And so from that point on, they both had to be on organic feed.
Well, I wasn't talking about just the lineage, but your personal experience. Were you ranching in the standard conventional non-organic way and then heard about this and started seeing it as an
No, I was
opportunity?
building power plants in the Philippines.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a segue.
So, yeah.
It's
When
all
I came back to
fascinating.
Wyoming, it was like, okay, what am I going to do? Let's see, oil field or farming? Well, guess
Those are my
what?
options.
Since there's not oil on my farm.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think that's true. I think there's plenty of that, but it's
Yay.
after seeing what I saw in all my travels, it was very obvious that I wanted to just farm. And I tried it conventional the first year, and it was a total disaster. And I knew it would be, but, then I got the opportunity to be on the business council and got the opportunity to understand what was going on. Since I'd been out of the country for about 3 years, I'd lost contact with, I've been eating organic in the Philippines. And get back to the United States and go, holy smoke, man, is this all you got? Yeah, this is it.
This was in the late 90s?
Mm-hmm.
96.
Wow. Impressive.
And I think Dave Friedenthal's idea, initially, because we talked about it, is he wanted a USDA processing plant in Wyoming. We raised 2.3 million cattle a year, and we don't have no way to process.
Huge bottleneck for us. Oh, man,
Yeah.
that's the bottleneck.
Well, your bottleneck's called the NCBA and the Wyoming stockbrokers. That's your bottleneck.
Have state inspected, one that I know of in Hudson. That's the only state I know of.
I don't know, Cody Meats is,
Cody
I think
Meats.
they are.
our state inspected. Yeah, because they're selling.
Because they
it.
can ship across state lines.
You can't sell.
Oh,
You can't sell it.
Oh, I thought they could.
Sell your animal first and yeah, you gotta sell your animal live. I've sold plenty into Idaho and Utah, but it's, you gotta buy a half or a quarter.
Ah,
You gotta sell them to them live.
And I understand from Cindy, there's a bill right now in the legislature to force the ag department to go to the USDA and get their inspectors certified to do USDA inspection.
And if they
oh, really?
Yeah.
You shut putting in right in down.
I think it's, I don't think it'll ever happen, but I do
You know,
appreciate the fight.
Yeah.
What's too bad is, it's my understanding from talking to a couple of the inspectors, is that you probably know more about this than I do, but the Wyoming meat inspectors actually have a stiffer criteria than the USDA inspectors. But why couldn't they just cross them and say, if you're a Wyoming state meat inspector, then it's a USDA inspected, and let you kill your calves over here to put them.
A lot of it's coming down to the real facts are USDA inspectors are union.
Yeah.
They tried that, what, 2 years
State
ago? They almost had
sovereignty
two
issues.
where state inspected could go. And they were looking at the USDA portable plant, and there's been all sorts of different ideas, I guess, but yeah, nothing's materialized, and for us to live out in the middle of no man's land, it's either Colorado or Butte, Montana. And you can't afford to truck them up there.
Yeah, like my little plant in Columbus, he can take 10. He can't take a pod load.
For it to be economic, you gotta take
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot.
Now, are you, I'm sure you are familiar with Polyface Farms in
Oh, yeah,
Virginia,
Joel.
Saladin?
Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting reading, when I first read about it, he went into the whole thing about the slaughter rules and how they were, you can't do your own slaughter, so they had to do the end run, and they were courtesy slaughtering for the owner of the animal, you know, and that's how they got around that.
Yeah, Joel's done some great things. He's worked really hard on poultry processing.
Yeah.
He used to do it on farm. And, you know, he was selling his chickens, and the state came and shut him down. He said, "What are you doing?" He got, I mean, Joel's a smart man. He had all the lab tests there. He said, "Here, check my bacteria levels. I'll guarantee you my bacteria levels are lower than the Tyson plant on the other side of the mountain."
Well, that's a low bar.
He's doing it out in the open sun. You know, that's the key.
Well, yeah, it's
The sun
definitely-
kills everything. And he was clean as a whistle.
Huh.
Officially, time has expired. Y'all can visit as long as you want to visit, but you're off the hook if you.
Oh, good. I hope if there's any more questions, I'll certainly hang.
I would like to get with you